Presented by Gear Services Web Design, Alliance for the Brave, serving and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Tune in, join in, and plug in with us around the globe. Welcome to Alliance for the Brave.
In the air everywhere across America, you're listening to Alliance for the Brave, where we bring education, information, and communication to today's veterans, active duty military, first responders, and American patriots who'll come on board with us. I'm Jim Blythe, a U.S. Navy veteran and a certified senior advisor. I'm your host today, and I'm missing out on my team, but I got to tell you, we've got a really great interview. I have been talking to one of the most fascinating gentlemen I have ever met over the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Larry Hales, the CEO, president of Hales Global Group, and the founder and president of the Men's Huddle. Larry, welcome aboard.
Well, good morning, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Isn't this fun? I tell you what, you were a Navy veteran, but you told me something that really cracked me up about how you got seasick every time you went aboard a ship.
That's true.
I bet that made it a lot of fun trying to go to sea, didn't it?
Every day of my life, it was just the most difficult time of my life. But it was also the best part of my life because the experiences that I gained working as an administrative officer, it was a segue, if you will, into my next career, which has proven to be one that only God could make possible.
I know. It's amazing. But let's go back. You're a graduate of Stephen F. Austin. You were on the football team, the first bowl game that they ever played and won.
That's correct.
Man, I got it. You must have had a lot of fun down there in Nacogdoches.
I did. And my coach remains a father and a friend to this day, John Lever. And what was also most interesting was that Coach Lever, when he left college, he coached in the NFL for 22 years. And I followed him for those 22 years, and he made possible for my family to attend many NFL games, including being able to have Super Bowl tickets.
So wow.
It was just unbelievable to have him in my life.
Well, you've got an event coming up, but let's back up just a second. Because of your football background and then your administrative Navy background, and you were a man of just wonderful faith, you started the Men's Huddle. Larry, tell us a little bit about that and what it is about and what you do.
Well, the Men's Huddle mission is to help boys and men to become real men first, and then afterwards to become better men. That's the whole mission.
Oh, man, that sounds fantastic. I just finished Tony Evans' book about being a better man, and that is a huge thing because I think we've gotten away from a lot of that today from when the generation that you and I grew up in. So that's really important. Well, tell us a little bit about, you got an event on the 27th. So we're going to dig into that, and we're going to dig into what you're going to do as part of that event. But tell us a little bit about that event, and if somebody wanted to go or plug into it, how they can do that.
Well, first of all, on July 27th in Norfolk, Virginia, it's going to be an inaugural day of an event that we're hosting that is called Breakfast for Winners. There will be two events that will be occurring on that particular day. One is to welcome the new head football coach at Norfolk State, Coach Dawson Odom. The second part of that event is we will deliver valuable presentation information on winning by doing business with the federal government. There are unbelievable opportunities available. Problem is, most people don't know about it.
Oh, without a doubt. You know, Larry, we've been asking you to come to Dallas, and I think you're going to do that because one of the things a lot of people don't know, there's something like 200 government contracting companies in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Some of the biggest in the nation are here. Lockheed Missile and Fire Control, Lockheed over in Fort Worth building the F-35 fighter, E-Systems.
Sure.
I mean, this is a community in Dallas-Fort Worth that is really plugged into military contracting. So if people wanted to know or maybe plug in more, where could they learn more about, again, getting to this event and plugging in, whether you're in Norfolk or Dallas?
Well, I would strongly urge anyone who have an interest in these opportunities to go to the website, which is www.menshuddle.com. Menshuddle.com. Menshuddle.com.
And how many years have you been doing Men's Huddle, Larry?
4 years now. We're going into our 5th year in December.
Can you tell me some story? Like you said in your resume that you had one of the first men's group prayer groups, I believe, on the mall in Washington. So tell me a little bit, was that part of Men's Huddle?
That's correct. Well, I would like to refer to them as not success stories, Jim, but I would like to call them miracle stories. And I'll go ahead and I'll share just a couple with you.
Please.
Okay. In 2019, we wanted to find a way to reach high school football players and to do it undercover, so to speak. And what we did was we took 5 high school football teams. We fed them during the week and before games, which allowed us the opportunity to pray over the food and to pray with the players. Well, at the end of the season, out of 5 schools that we had fed, 4 of those schools made the playoffs.
Wow.
2 of those schools won state football championships. And 1 school had not been to the playoff in 23 years, made the playoff. Now, you asked me about them all. In 2019, we decided to do a Father's Day blessing, where we invited men from all of the United States to Washington, D.C. On the Saturday before Father's Day at the mall, where fathers were able to lay hands on their sons and pray a father's blessing over them. And one more thing happened after that. About 45 days later, Men's Huddle Group was invited to the White House. And out of 76 seats at the White House, we had 14 seats where we brought men from Men's Huddle International to the White House to hear a presentation and to personally pray over Vice President Pence.
Oh, that's exciting. One of the things that I'd want to ask you, though, because we're broadcast nationwide, how could somebody either plug into Men's Huddle or how could they organize a group of Men's Huddle in their community? Is there a way to go about doing that?
Well, yes. Monday through Friday, from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., we have a Men's Huddle prayer line where men are able to call in and ask for prayer, or on Friday in particular, on Friday mornings, we break bread and we have communion. And it's been amazing the results that we've seen as a result of this prayer line. We have people from as far as South Africa who call in on the prayer line at least 2 or 3 times a week.
And that's 5 to 6 a.m. Eastern time because you're in Washington.
Right.
Wow. I mean, that has got to be powerful. What a way to really sort of end your week, which starts the next week off with a lot of positive attitude and positive thoughts and positive prayers. I love that. That's great.
Well, I think that the one thing that I failed to mention, Jim, was that the Men's Huddle basically grew out of God giving me a crazy idea.
I love that.
What I mean by that is that I had this idea of renting a large hotel ballroom, inviting men to come to a breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. But inside this ballroom, there would be 7 tents set up. And if you were interested in being prayed and being delivered from one of several things, or be blessed in the area of your marriage, your finances, your careers, from addiction, from healings, or you need your business blessed, or you wanted salvation, you would go under this particular tent, and there were hand-selected men who loved God, who had a passion for praying for people to be, for example, delivered from addiction. So you would go into one of these tents, and people would pray over you. And again, you would go into one of the 7 tents. And what was amazing was that on that particular Saturday morning, over 350 men attended a free breakfast at a Marriott hotel. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It was just amazing to hear the testimonies of what happened and how God had blessed so many men from that event. That's basically the start of the men's hope.
Without a doubt, to me, in addictions, and I personally have not experienced the addiction, but I have counseled so many people, including family members with addictions, and it's a battlefield of the mind. And I think where it starts is what you're talking about, Larry, is prayer. How do you get in touch with God? How do you get back to that? Because we are all hardwired to believe in God and to have prayer. Even the atheists have their own way. But I got to tell you, this is an important thing. So you brought and you had 350 men. You had some miraculous stories of breaking addiction or helping people?
Well, finances. One of the biggest things that we heard was how people who were not earning as much money as they should have been earning, how they were able to get raises, how people's businesses began to grow. Individuals who were having marriage difficulties, marriages were restored. I mean, it was just a litany of things that occurred that encouraged us that, wow, taking a crazy idea of setting up tents in a hotel ballroom, giving people, men, a free breakfast at a Marriott hotel. Everything was free. Okay, that was amazing. Everything was free. But to see the results afterwards was just amazing. Just amazing.
Oh, that's tremendous. Well, you then exhibited servant leadership that Jesus basically showed his disciples at the Last Supper, putting on that servant attitude of being able to help these men and women, or men, I guess it's primarily men, but we've got such a huge number of single-parent families today, both men and women, who are in charge of their kids and are single-parent families. This is a huge strain, and so having someone to pray with, having somebody to go to, that's a huge thing.
Yes, and it's it's amazing. It's a challenge, but that's a promise from the Word of God. It's a challenge, but we know that when we help those who need to help the most, God has a way of rewarding us greater than what we have done to serve others. And also for us who want to be great, be a servant.
Oh, without a doubt.
When you serve others, it's amazing what happens to you when you serve others.
Well, they in turn want to serve and be a part of your team. And that's it. We don't do anything. And I have counseled young boys in halfway house coming out of the Texas teenage juvenile system and said, you can't do anything on your own. And you got to have a team. You got to have a great team. And they look at me and said, yeah, I can. I said, okay, can you brush your teeth on your own? And they go, well, yeah. And I said, did you make the toothpaste? Did you make the toothbrush? Did you create the water system that gets it? You've got to have a team in life to lift you up and build you up. And I think that's part of attitude equals altitude, and being part of the right team, being part of like-minded men is what lifts people up. Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a break and hear from our sponsors. And we're going to be coming back talking with Larry Hales. Fascinating man, started the men's Huddle group. Maybe you want to start one in your community. And we're going to tell you how to get there and meet with him. This is Jim Blythe with Alliance for the Brave, and I'm talking with Larry Hales. Fascinating man. And we're going to be talking about his business, which is amazing. Amazing. So stand by and stay with us on Alliance for the Brave. Now, Larry, we're still on Facebook Live, and I think this is exciting. So, again, I'd like to tell people, how can you go to find out more about Men's Huddle Group and start your own group for Facebook? So can you tell us that again, please, sir?
Well, I would strongly encourage anyone who'd be interested in our history or being a part of what we do is to go to the website, which is www.men's Huddle, MENS Huddle, HUDDLE.
You know, I wish we could get you to come to Dallas, or maybe we'll take Tony Evans to see you, because he was the chaplain, I think, or maybe he still is, for the Dallas Cowboys, but his whole teaching is about, I think, being a better man, being a better woman. And he's written a great book that I went through, and I've seen him many times. The church that I used to go to actually sponsored him, and that was an offshoot of what he does. And Tony Evans is an incredible, incredible teacher and speaker. And I think that what you're talking about, being a better man, that's what it's all about. That's what we got to do. Stand up to be able to improve. And I think one of the biggest things, and I mentioned this, is battlefield of the mind. Where do you start with that? You start with a prayer. And I tell you what, one of the prayers I start with every morning, Larry? The 91st Psalm.
Well, there's no better one to start with. There's no question about it.
You bet. Now, your event on the 27th, tell us where it's going to be. It's going to be in Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah, it's going to be in Norfolk, Virginia. It's going to be at the World Trade Center at the Towns Point Club. And it's a two-part program. It starts at 7:45 that morning and goes to about 12:30. It's a two-part program. The first part is to welcome Coach Dawson Odom as a new head football coach at Norfolk State University. And the second part of the program would be a presentation on winning by doing business with the federal government, where basically we're going to show secrets of what it takes to win government contracts and grants.
Wow. And that's one of the big things. A lot of people don't realize there are huge government contracts, huge government grants. I understand.
More than ever, Jim, if I may add.
Oh, yeah. Well, when we get back on the air, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, under the present administration, it's just amazing the amount of money that's flowing, not only in government contracts, but the leftovers monies from COVID. I've never seen, it's like a spigot has been turned on.
Okay, so we're going to be right back on the air. So thank you for joining us on Facebook. Send us a note. Diane will if you send us a note, she'll hand me the comment. My wife Diane's taking care of that. So stick with us. This is Alliance for the Brave on Facebook, and we're about to be back on the air with Alliance for the Brave on the USA Radio Network. We are here for you. So stand by, because it's going to get better.
You're listening to Alliance for the Brave, honoring, serving, and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Today's program is presented by Gear Services Web Design. Learn more about our mission and how you can plug in with us at allianceforthebrave.com. Now, back to the conversation.
Well, welcome back. You're on board with Jim Blythe on Alliance for the Brave, and we've got another Navy veteran. A Navy veteran who got seasick every time he went to sea. Gosh, that's got to have been a miserable situation. Welcome aboard, Larry Hales, and the CEO of the Hales Global Group. Larry, we've been talking about your men's huddle and how exciting that is, bringing men together to help them to be better men, and where people can go to find out about that, the www.menshuddle.com. Great event coming up in Norfolk, Virginia. I tell you what, Larry, let's see what we can do to promote other men's huddle groups around the nation and get multiple breakfasts like this going. Now,
yes.
you talked about something, and I read your resume. So let's just go back a little bit, because you got started doing work with the government and learning how to do things. So you go way back. You were a director of a Vietnam era veterans program under President Ford and Carter, alumni of Stephen F. Austin. So you got your college degree, and you were an officer in the Navy, although apparently not real happy when you went to sea. I'm sorry. I got to tease you a little bit, man. After 3 combat tours in Vietnam on aircraft carriers, I know what it is to go to sea. But it's important that what you did is you really learned and worked with the government in being able to gain contracts and learn how that goes. And that's what Hales Global Group does. Tell us a little bit about that as we go through this short period before we start into a really in-depth conversation of the Hales Group.
Okay. Well, first of all, upon being honorably discharged from the Navy, I needed a job. My wife was pregnant, and I had gone to the Virginia Employment Commission office to apply for a job, and I was told, "Wow, you should have been here yesterday because there was a job that closed out that fit your background." And the job was an assignment to work on a White House project. So I go home, I tell my wife, we pray. And about 15 minutes later, I don't know, I just felt an urge to pray for the second time. So my wife and I, we were praying the second time. The phone rang, and where there was no interview, there was an interview. Long story short, it led to my appointment as one of 24 to work on a Vietnam veterans program directed by the White House under both Ford and Carter. But specifically, my job was to interface at that time with the largest corporations in America and to pitch those companies that if they were to give Vietnam era veterans jobs or commit to hire over 1,000 veterans, we, at the federal government, we would give them government contracts, or if they needed finance, we would finance their operation. So I was a conduit from private industry to the federal government. And as a result of that, I met some interesting folks, and CEOs from the largest corporations in America welcomed me with open arms. And so I can honestly say that the Navy was the segue into my employment on that White House project. And that's where I learned networking. That's where I learned to use my skills in meeting the needs of corporations. And when I left the government, that's when I started Hales Global Group.
Larry, I have learned, because I had an opportunity to bring some telemedicine to the VA, and boy, the walls that I hit, I mean, the things that I ran into to try and become a government contractor. I signed up, I had a corporation of a veteran-owned business and all that stuff. I got to tell you, it was like trying to jump over a tall building, and it was just almost impossible. And what you're talking about is you went into that world and learned how to go about doing that. Well, I tell you what, we're going to be going to a commercial break in just 1 minute. Then we're going to be coming back, digging into that in our longest segment, talking about how do you work with the government. And it's got to be a two-way deal, right, Larry? You've got to benefit the government as well as the government being able to benefit the contractor. And it's not just giant corporations. You also work with a lot of small startup companies, correct?
We have. Yes, we have.
All right. Well, we're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. You're listening to Alliance of the Brave, and you're joining in the conversation. Larry Hales, CEO of Hales Global Group. How do you go about contracting with the federal government? That's a huge mystery, and I've got the man who can unravel it for you. So we'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. You're listening to Alliance for the Brave. The next segment that comes up is our biggest segment, and so we're really going to be able to kind of delve into everything. Again, I want to tell our Facebook audience If you're in the Tidewater area, the beautiful Virginia area, the 27th, the Men's Huddle Breakfast, you go to www.menshuddle.com. You can sign up. And then there's going to be a workshop put on by Larry Hales and the Hales Global Group. I think that's going to be incredible. Who are some of the speakers that you're going to have at the Men's Global Group briefing on government contracting?
Well, my partner of 14 years, there's several people, of 14 years, Don Williams. Don Williams was the director of Jones Services in the state of Virginia for both Governor Gilmore and Governor George Allen. And after 9/11, President Bush appointed him to run GSA. He was the largest buyer of goods and services in the world. And he also was in charge of every building in the Washington, D.C. area. So when Don had a 2-year cooling down period, and then afterwards he set up his own firm. But for the last 14 years, he and I have worked together as a team. Interestingly, in some cases, Don is the prime contractor. Other cases, Hales Global Group is the prime contractor. But for 14 years, we have worked together. We exchange checks every month. And you will find this interesting, Jim. There is no legal contract between our firms.
Man, let me tell you, that takes courage. I've got a very good friend that I'm working with right now on a major deal, and he and I we have gentleman's agreement, and boy, I mean, he and I are just tight as we can be. And I think that that's important. When we come back, I'd love for you to tell that story. I'd also love for you to tell some of the major corporations, including the Chinese corporation, $100 billion a year in sales that company has, and you helped them get there?
Well, I've been a part of it. I've worked with them now for 12 years.
Wow. Man alive.
But the other individual I wanted to tell you who's going to be there, who will also be a speaker and on the panel, who almost have similar names. His name is John Hale, Hale. And John Hale is also a former presidential appointee during the Obama administration over at the Department of Energy, who reported directly to the Secretary of Energy. And John is going to be sharing information in regards to the new infrastructure program and all of the energy programs that the federal government will be rolling out in the coming months.
Boy, I think that's fascinating. All right, we're going to be back on the air on the USA Radio Network. Facebook, thank you for joining us. Facebook, send us a note. Diane will hand it to me. We are so thankful. And if you're on Facebook, please share us with every group you can. We want to get the word out about the Hales Global Group and what they do. So we'll be right back.
Today's program is brought to you by Gear Services Web Design. Visit us on Facebook or online at allianceforthebrave.com. And now back to Alliance for the Brave.
Well, welcome back. You're on board with Jim Blythe, a U.S. Navy veteran. I'm getting to talk to another great U.S. Navy veteran whose Navy career segued into working with the government, and now he is CEO of the Hales Global Group. I looked him up online. Holy cow. Some of the companies that they work with are truly amazing. And Larry Hales, thank you for being on board. Thank you for being part of Alliance of the Brave. And I hope that rocking of the ship of this program doesn't upset your tummy.
No, absolutely not.
I know what not to invite you to. I got to tell you, I mean, a seasick sailor. Come on, Larry, that's tough, man.
Yeah, but you got to remember, Jim, I had the fortitude that only God could provide to hang in there and take it.
Well, that's one of the things that the military, and especially I think the Navy, teaches us, to raise above what we think we can do, to push yourself beyond your limits, to really go the whole way. And one of the amazing things is you're a wonderful man of God. So I'm looking forward to becoming one of your friends and supporters and servants to help you with what you're trying to do with the Men's Huddle and with the Hales Global Group. But please tell us the story that you were telling me on the break about how you got started in your partner, that I think is a fascinating story about where you guys came from and what you've done.
Well, one of the speakers at the event is Don Williams. Another speaker is an individual we share a very similar name as John Hale. John Hale reported directly to the Secretary of the Department of Energy, and John will be addressing the Department of Energy needs, programs, grants, etc. But Don Williams was the Director of General Services for the state of Virginia under Governor George Allen and Governor Gilmore. And when 9/11 hit, President Bush appointed Don Williams to run GSA, which is the largest federal agency in America to provide goods and services. After Don's term at GSA was over, he had a 2-year cooling period, and he set up his own firm afterwards, and we came together as partners, with him having his own firm and Hales Group being a separate firm. So we have worked together for 14 years now. We have represented together clients all over the world. And the story I was telling you was that every month we exchange checks between our respective companies, but there's no written contract. And we've been doing this now for 14 years. And a lot of people find it amazing. That's what happens when you trust people and you're a firm believer in relationships. And that's our story.
That is a huge story. I got to tell you, having been in commercial real estate many years ago, now I'm in the mortgage business, but way back then, there were just a handful of people that I would do a handshake deal with, and there was another handful of people that I wouldn't do a deal with, even if I had the meanest, toughest lawyer in Texas to do with them. And matter of fact, one friend of mine, one guy, and we were good friends, and he called me one day and he said, "You've got this deal. I want to, work with you on it." And I said, "I'm sorry. There's not a lawyer mean enough, big enough, tough enough, or well enough armed in Texas that could set this thing up to where it would work." And he just lied. Died laughing, because that was his reputation. And we won't go into who. But with the global group, the Hales Global Group, tell me about some of the clients that you have that are major national companies, like your Chinese one.
Well, over the years, we have helped. Well, first of all, our first success story with a large contract was we worked directly with AT&T, reported directly to a senior vice president, Dave Caldwell, who reported directly to Bob Allen, chairman of the board of AT&T. And we worked with them and helped them to secure that first billion-dollar contract. And that was to put computers aboard all military bases throughout the world. We've also worked with IBM. We've worked with Northrop Grumman. We've worked with E-Systems. We've worked with Texas Instruments. We've worked with Pepsi-Cola. We've worked with a little over 70, at last count, I think it was like 76 of the Fortune 500 companies we have worked with in helping them in one way or another to fulfill a government contract requirement. And for the past 12 years now, we've had the opportunity and the pleasure of serving Wan Chong, which is based in Chicago. Most people don't know this, but Wan Chong is the largest Chinese company in the world.
And it's based in Chicago?
Yeah.
Wow.
They have 26 operations in the United States. And last year, they did exactly $101 billion in revenues. And they're also the they started manufacturing about 3 years ago this new car. If you're interested, Jim, if you're interested in a smooth riding car, I suggest that you look at that Fisker. It's a beautiful car.
Well, we'll take a look at that. We both have SUVs, and so when they come out with an SUV, because let me tell you, I do a lot of work in small communities and rural areas helping seniors, and you don't know how many times I've gotten stuck in a regular car. So I've given it up, and I have an SUV now. It makes all the difference in the world.
I understand.
And I could tell you some hilarious stories that you're going to, when we get together, you're going to die laughing about it. But so this is important, knowing not only the relationships, but understanding how the paperwork and how the presentations work. Larry, I was so amazed when I tried to do some of that I hit a wall. Now, I know what it's like when I do an FHA loan for somebody. Gosh, the paperwork's unbelievable. But
it's a process.
Yeah.
Procurement is and, it takes patience. And there's an old saying that the military used that I'll express here in just a moment. And it goes, hurry up and wait. With the federal government, even when everything is right, you have to hurry up and wait. The federal government does not move fast. But the most rewarding thing I can tell anyone is that serving the federal government is the best customer in the world, because you will be paid. And if you deliver on-time products or services, it's amazing. You'll have a customer for life. And that's the reason why you mentioned earlier the companies in Texas are growing and have grown, is because once you have the government as a customer, you have that customer for life, unless you do some things that's not in the contract that's required.
Well,
so if you serve,
yeah,
you'll do well.
If you serve, I think that's the key, is service and serving. And one of the things I believe in is service after the sale and taking care of people. And that's what it sounds like with Hales Global Group. You stay in touch. You serve these customers, these clients, way after the things are done. And you stay involved. And you're bipartisan. You work with both Democrat and Republican presidents, and you work with members of Congress.
Yeah.
So your company is based in Washington, D.C., correct?
Correct. In the heart of the lobbying world, 1717 K Street.
Oh, wow, man. And I think it's also important that you live in the Tidewater area down in Norfolk, correct?
I'm in the Williamsburg area. Yes.
Oh, wow. That's one of the neatest things. I've been wanting to take Diane to that. We're going to figure out my airplane. My son called me this morning, and the plane came out of Annual. So he's going to take it to Oshkosh, and then after Oshkosh, by gosh, we're coming down there to Norfolk and see you and take you and Shirley to dinner. Because I have my own airline, my own little private plane, and it sure is fun to fly. Love doing that, man. It's all about that, and we don't get airsick.
Okay. Well, you just reminded me of last night's trip. As you know, trying to get back to Norfolk from Chicago, it was a whirlwind. That was supposed to start at 5:30 last night. Ended up being after 1 p.m. a.m. Brother.
Oh, I know. It's amazing how with a Beechcraft Bonanza I can beat an airline simply because I don't have all the delays they've got. But there are times when the delays are important that I just choose to stay on the ground. Weather is not good. But as we're talking about that, weathering the storms of COVID. Now, one of the things that you mentioned to me earlier is there is a lot of pent-up funds available because of the storm we've been through with COVID. Can you explain a little bit about that, please, sir?
Yes. Well, first of all, the federal government procurement purchases occur over every 3 months. And the federal government new budget starts on October 1. Historically, over 60% of the government budget is spent in the last quarter. And so the last quarter months are July, August, and September. Because of COVID and the funding of so many programs, the government procurement acquisition folks have not been able to spend the monies that was allocated for this year. And in addition to that, they had dumped on them piles of other monies. So the federal government cannot and will not be able to spend all of the money that they have. We have never seen such a downpouring of cash as we're experiencing the federal government throwaway, if you will, now into all kinds of programs. You know, a lot of people, including myself, my wife and I, we enjoy watching Shark Tank. But if people only knew that the federal government is always looking for innovation ideas, and the federal government is the biggest Shark Tank in the world. The problem is they don't know. Every agency has innovation programs where the government has paid employees to look for people who have creative ideas. I remember back after 9/11, the Department of Defense implemented a new program that was called Da Vinci. And it was Don Rumsfeld who had that idea. And Don Rumsfeld, who passed away just a few weeks ago, he made this statement. I was a venture capitalist before I got into the government. And I know that there are guys out there working out of their homes, or working in basement or garages, who have ideas that can help us solve problems. Those problems that we have in biotechnology, those problems that we have in space, those problems that we have in energy. There are guys out there with those solutions. So I was a part of the Da Vinci group who went all over the world looking for innovative technology that would solve the problem. I actually one time was in Germany looking at a motor that ran off air. A motor that ran off.
Wow.
So, but again, there are so many programs inside every agency that if people only knew and were willing to prepare, in many cases, a 1 to 3 page white paper that outline their concepts, it's amazing the kind of monies that are available.
Well, Larry, how could people, I got to interrupt you because we're going to go into a break in just a minute. You have said some things that are incredible. How can people reach you? Your email address, would you like to give that out?
Well, my email address is on Hales Global website. It's info@halesglobal.com.
Okay, and we want people to go to halesglobal.com to learn more about what Larry Hales does and what Hales Global does. And for you startup companies, you're right. There's a tremendous opportunity to serve the nation, serve the government, and be a servant leader that serves yourself. So this is Jim Blythe. We're going to continue the conversation with Larry Hales. Fascinating man, Hales Global Group. So we're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. This is Jim Blythe. You're listening to Alliance for the Brave, your place for information about the military and what's available to you. Stand by. Well, Larry, I hope you're enjoying this opportunity to talk on the air with me. I am really get a kick out of it. Now, we're going to be sending you the audio file of this to use, and we've got the Facebook deal. We're going to send that to you as well. So your men's huddle or the global group can really enjoy this. And Diane and I are kind of looking and scratching our head, and she's got a lot of things she's got to deal with, and I got a lot of things I got to deal with. But, boy, I'd love a holiday to come to Norfolk and join your men's huddle and join the prayer team in that. I think that's one of the most incredible things, great things I've heard of in a long time.
Well, thank you. It's a challenge, but we knew that going in, it would be a challenge. And we know that Ephesians 6 and 12 is really prevalent for all of us. For they who would live godly will suffer persecution. So we know we're in a fight, Jim. We understand it. But we also know we can't.
I like Isaiah, they that mount up with wings like eagles. Boy, let me tell you something. That's what we've all got to do. Attitude equals altitude, and there is nothing better than the Word, the Scripture, to find the places to have the attitude. One of the things I learned a long time ago, especially in the Navy, the Word doesn't say, hey, lay down in the valley of death. It says, when I walk through the valley of death, I shall fear no evil. It doesn't say camp. It doesn't say sit down. It doesn't say lie down. It says keep moving.
Absolutely. That's why I think on your website, I love that 2 Corinthians 2:14. Now, thanks be to God, who always, not sometimes, who always causes us to triumph. Not sometimes, not maybe.
But all the time. And I tell you what, we also learned the Psalm 91, the prayers, that not to fear the darkness of the night, nor to fear the outrageous arrows that fly by day, but God is our refuge and our bulwark. It's our battlement. It's where we have our great wall. And I think a lot of people need to understand how important it is to change your attitude, change your mind by getting into the Word and learning. This is not some stodgy old book that's rules and regulations. It's really about life.
That is so true. That is so true. That is so true.
Well, if you take a look, and I have enjoyed it, I'm going to really enjoy meeting you and Shirley and Diane and I going to dinner with you guys.
Sure.
I think it's incredible, too, of what all you've done. And I would really like to see if we can't connect you to Tony Evans and some other groups here in Dallas that could start our own men's huddle. So we're going to be right back on the air with a close. So take a look at my last couple of sentences and what I'm going to ask you. This is Jim Blank with Alliance for the Brave on Facebook. Send us a note. We'll connect you right after these words.
Listening to Alliance for the Brave, honoring, serving, and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Today's program is presented by Gear Services Web Design. Learn more about our mission and how you can plug in with us at allianceforthebrave.com. Now, back to the conversation.
Well, welcome back, and we're about to bring this program into the dock. I'm Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy veteran. Joining me, Larry Hales, U.S. Navy veteran, also CEO, president of the Hales Global Group. Take a look. We're going to post some information about this on our Alliance for the Brave website. I know, I've been told we're going to do that. But Men's Huddle Group, what a great thing that we need to spread this word nationwide. And then if you want to do contracting, if you want to learn how to take that small business that you think you've got a product that could serve the nation and serve the government, here's where you need to start. Hales Global Group. Larry, thank you so much for being on board. And Larry, I was going to ask you, and again, what would you say to a young man or a young woman who's graduating from high school or graduating from college about what the Navy did for you and how that could help get a start like you have had to have a great company like Hales Global Group?
Well, it's a good question. I think what the military will do, and it will help prepare any young person, is to learn structure, is to learn how to follow orders, and also to work hard. And more important than that is discipline. It takes a lot of discipline to run a business, or especially to grow a business. But the other thing, too, that we seldom hear is about relationships. It's in the military, you meet people from all walks of life, from all cultures. And if you could learn to work with those individuals, and some of them will be a challenge, it will really prepare them to do whatever it is they want to do in life. Because the one thing that I've learned in 46 years working on 2 White House assignments, and I was just thinking about this yesterday, is the importance and the urgency of relationships. As I was thinking back yesterday, as I was in Chicago with the largest Chinese company in the world, who I started doing work with 12 years ago. And as I reflected on the past 12 years of working with these folks, the one thing that I learned yesterday, and would love to pass it on to you and to your listening audience, is the importance of not forgetting that starting small and producing a quality product or a quality service will just lead to growth and bigger things.
Well, Larry, that is important. If people want to know more about you, they can go to Hales Group. I close with a prayer. Lord God, thank you for men like Larry Hale. Protect our veterans, protect our active duty military and our first responders. This we pray, hallelujah, in Jesus' name today. Larry, this has been wonderful. I'm sorry I had to cut you off, but
it's okay.
It's the end, but tomorrow is the beginning, so go to halesgroup.com. This is Alliance for the Brave. You're listening to us. Stay with us and come back next week. Thank you for being part of Alliance for the Brave.